each other. So someone's gonna help me with a video today because ever since he woke up from his nap, he has not wanted to be away from me. Hey guys, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing the mid-year book freakout tag. So I have been on BookTube for a couple years now, and I do remember doing this tag in 2018. However, I was pregnant with him in 2019 and had basically like no stamina and did not do this tag whatsoever. But I'm so excited to do it this year. I will leave both of the creators' videos down below because they, I think, created this in like 2016 or something like that, before I was even on BookTube. And we have quite a few questions here. I've pulled all the books for it because there are definite questions that I was unable to only pick one book for, but I'm very, very excited to talk about some of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. So the first question is the best book that you have read so far in 2020. I have quite a few 5-star books that I could pick for this one, but I think there's two that are ultimately standing out as slightly higher than the rest. Because they are also sort of like feel-good books for me as well. But the first one is going to be Strangelove by Anne Aguirre. This is an independently published book from her, even though she has had some books that she has published traditionally as well. And this is a sci-fi adult romance that is basically like The Bachelor meets The Hunger Games. However, I've also heard it billed as like Fem, Shep, and Garrus from Mass Effect in The Hunger Games, with, I guess, that Bachelor added part in it. And it is so true. I absolutely love this book. It was so fun to read, especially since there's a talking dog in it as well. And I just absolutely loved both of our main characters. I absolutely need more in this series. I know there is technically a sequel in this series, but it's more of like a companion book, so it doesn't follow Beryl and Xyler again. But like, I need more of them because it was so well done. And then the other one is going to be Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I read this, it doesn't even feel like I read it in 2020. This year has been so long already and it's only halfway done. But I read this earlier this year, within the first couple months, like February or March, I want to say, and absolutely fell in love with it. This is an adult contemporary romance where our main character gets roped into working at a Renaissance fair and has to deal with sort of a fake dating trope as their characters in the Renaissance fair. And I absolutely, again, loved both of these characters. I was able to connect to them so well, and that's probably why these two books that I'm just talking about right now are some of the best books I read in 2020, because I was able to connect to the characters and I loved the story. Question 2 is the best sequel that you've read in 2020 so far. The only sequels that I've read in 2020 so far are when I have started a series in 2020 and have continued it. So I do have a couple for this as well. So I have both of the sequels for this series here, but with Presley hanging on this side, I can only really lift one book at a time. But so we have A Gathering of Shadows and A Conjuring of Light. These are books 2 and 3 in the Darker Shade of Magic series. I read all 3 of these books in basically a marathon and absolutely loved them. While I do think the first book in this series can sort of be read as a standalone because it does have a full conclusion, books 2 and 3 go together so well. Like, it feels like these are more of a like duology. We get extra characters. We still have Lila and Kel, who I absolutely love, but we have extra characters that are brought more to the forefront, so they're not just secondary characters. It feels like we have more main characters. Again, I absolutely loved the characters in this series, and yeah, books 2 and 3 were phenomenal. And then the other sequel that I read is The Dragon Republic. I started The Poppy War this year, absolutely loved it. While I didn't fully love The Dragon Republic as much as The Poppy War, it was still like a 4.5 stars, and this is quite different, I want to say, than A Darker Shade of Magic. This is dark. Poppy War is dark as well, but like this one takes it to a whole new level, and it also deals with war. It is a fantasy setting, but I'm not someone who usually picks books with war in it, but I fell in love with this book and this series, and I can't wait for the third one, even though that one's probably gonna be extra dark as well. Question 3 is a new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. I have a few for this. These are gonna be books that have already been released in 2020 that I just really wanna read. The first one is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I love Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter books, and I'm a little bit behind on this series. And when I say series, I guess I mean in this world, because this is the first book in a new series that follows the Infernal Devices. And I really want to get to it. I feel like I need to finish some other books first. Where are you going? He's just like sliding down a little bit. But my goal is to read this by the end of 2020. The next one I have here is Conquest by Celeste Hart. This is actually an ebook that I have purchased recently. I think it was just released within the last month. And this is supposed to be a fantasy, but it's also sort of like a sci-fi as well, because it's in a futuristic society, but I do believe we have dragons or some such. I don't know much about it, but those two like concepts together just totally get me. I want to know how a fantasy and a sci-fi in those ways fit together. I need to read it. Where are you going? You can see yourself. So silly. And then another one that has just been released and I want to read is I'll Be the One by Lila Lee. I think it's about a Korean or Korean American girl who wants to do K-pop, but she is, I believe, LGBTQ and is, I don't know if they're calling her fat, but she is of a bigger body, and I am looking forward to this so much. Question 4 is your most anticipated read for the second half of the year. Again, I have a few here. Most of them are sequels, which should be of no surprise since I haven't read too many lately. First, we have The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Elder Curses series. I read Red Scrolls of Magic last year. Absolutely loved it. This is a Magnus Alec series. And again, I was just talking about how much I love the Shadowhunters, so I need this book. Then we have Vicious Spirits by Kat Cho. This is the second book for the Wicked Fox series, the Gumiho series. I don't know what the actual series name is, but I read Wicked Fox this year, really enjoyed it. The sequel, like this cover for the sequel, looks gorgeous. I don't know exactly where else we're gonna go with this story, but I loved her character so much, I need this book. Then we have Well Played by Jen DeLuca, another sequel to a book that I have read this year. Obviously, I talked about how much I loved Well Met. This is like more of a companion book, so it is gonna follow other characters in this Renaissance fair setting, but I am super excited. We also have The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. This is going to be the third and final book in the Poppy War series, and again, I talked about the Dragon Republic a little bit. Very dark fantasy with the Chinese history elements, and I need to know where this story ends. I am prepared to be devastated by it, but I need to get my hands on it. And then one book that I'm very excited for that is not a sequel is Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Bayron. I don't know much about this, except for it is, I believe, a Cinderella sort of retelling, but I believe it's like generational, so like they're descended from Cinderella. I don't know. Both covers are absolutely gorgeous, and I've already pre-ordered the UK one because I like that sort of bluish color better, and I am super excited for this one as well. Question 5 is the biggest disappointment. For that one, I'm going to be going with The Gospel of Loki by Joanne M. Harris. This is a book that I actually just read this month in June, and I think I gave it like 2 stars. I've had this book on my shelves for years and years. I don't even know how many years, but I believe I bought it maybe even before I met my husband. That's how long it was. And this is supposed to be like Norse mythology told from Loki's perspective, and it is. However, it was more told to us in stories. There wasn't as much action and adventure that I was really hoping for. Most of it was narration and not dialogue. One thing I will say is I did end up reading, I believe, about half of it as an audiobook. And I absolutely loved the audiobook and the audiobook narrator, but the actual story fell flat. Question 6 is the biggest surprise. For that one, we're going with the Poppy War because I felt like I knew what I was getting myself into when I started this one. I don't know if you guys can tell, but he's like right under where the camera is, just sort of like ragdolling it, and he's heavy. You heavy, dude. I felt like I knew what I was getting into with this book. We have our main character of Rin, who wants to join sort of like an elite academy for creating soldiers. It has the word war in it. I knew we were gonna get into war stuff, but my biggest surprise was part 3 of this book, because I know some people say that it's dark throughout, but I feel like some of the darkness in the first 2 parts isn't anything that I haven't really read or haven't seen as that dark before. But part 3, oh my gosh, I don't personally have triggers, but there are tons of trigger warnings for like war atrocities and everything in part 3, and some of it was getting to me a little bit. But yeah, I still love this book, gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but that was a surprise. I was not expecting it. Question 7 is a new favorite author. That could be a debut author or an author that is new to you. For that, I'm not even gonna pick up the books right now, but I have 3 and I've already talked about them. That's gonna be R.F. Kuang, author of The Poppy War and the Dragon Republic, Jen DeLuca, author of Well Met, and Anne Aguirre, author of Strangelove. Question 8 is your newest fictional crush. I really like books where I can connect to characters, especially with romances, and so I feel like that's where both of these new fictional crushes are coming from, which are going to be Simon from Well Met and Zyler from Strangelove. These are some of my 2 favorite books of this year. They both end up being romances, but both of the romances are very sort of character development driven, and so I was able to connect to the characters so much, and that's why I absolutely love the books, love the characters, and I probably definitely do have crushes on both of those characters. Question 9 is your newest favorite character. And for that one, I'm gonna be cheating just a little bit. I'm gonna be going with Finian and Zila from Aurora Burning. I fell in love with Finian last year when I read Aurora Rising. However, we didn't know much about him, and Zila had hardly any page time. But in this sequel that I read this year, we get to know all the characters really so much more, but those are the 2 that I absolutely want to know more about. I want to have them in more books. They are just so fun and interesting and unique, and I love them. So even though we met them, or I met them in the first book of the series last year, I absolutely love them now after reading this one. Question 10, a book that made you cry. So I actually have 2 for this one as well. Yes. So the first one is The Host. I reread this year after not having read it for a few years. I've read this book multiple times and have never cried before. However, for some reason, this year, when I read it, there is a scene where we find out that a character has died, and I was full on tearing up crying. Yeah, you wanna look? That's so pretty, huh? Ooh, yes. Do you like that cover? Pretty book. Okay, you can't have it though. But yeah, full on tearing up, crying over that one part, even though I've read it multiple times. So this definitely is one. And I have now passed off the baby to my husband because after The Host, he decided he did not want to be in front of the camera anymore. Sometimes he absolutely loves it, and then as of right now, he didn't want to do that anymore. Moving back along, the second book that made me cry is Strangelove by Anne Aguirre, but it made me cry because I was laughing so darn much. I think I said earlier, there is a talking dog, and basically like the first scene where the dog actually talks, I lost my shit. It was hilarious. I was reading in bed at like 10 something at night, whatever. The baby had gone to bed. My husband was reading his stuff next to me, and I thought something was like super funny, and I was like giggling to myself, and he wanted to know what it was. So I read him out the like paragraph, and I barely could get the last like sentence out because I was laughing so much. I was laughing so hard I cried. I loved it. Question 11 is a book that made you happy. I'm gonna be going with Well Met as well as Strangelove. These are two of my favorite books. I love them so much. They are happy books, and I love it. Question 12 is the most beautiful book you have bought so far this year or received. So one of them is going to be The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. This, I just absolutely love the art that they do for like these covers nowadays. And this cover photo illustration was done by Cliff Nielsen. Cover designed by Nicholas Sayaka. I don't know what it is, but there's something about these that always draw me in. I just absolutely love them. And then we have A Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy. We received this in an owl crate, and I absolutely love it. I think my aesthetic is like sort of really detailed artsy people on the cover, but I love the blue shininess. I love the art, which I believe this is Charlie Bowater art. And then the pages are like a glittery, shimmery, almost like a greeny gold. It is gorgeous. And then question 13, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So I have a few for this one. These are all books that I currently own. First off, I want to read the entire Reluctant Royals series. I've been hearing Zoe from Zoe's All Booked talk about this recently, and I had to buy them right away. I've been looking for some more adult romance, and these ones seem right up my alley. So we do have A Princess in Theory, and these are all by Alyssa Cole. A Duke by Default, and A Prince on Paper. I actually don't fully know what all the summaries are for these, but I need to read them. Next, I want to finish this Dreaming Sun manga by Ichigo Takano. There are only 10 volumes. I think I bought this one last year sometime, and this is the 10th and final volume. I want to say I'm a couple volumes behind, maybe like 3 or 4, so I do have a few to read. I think I might want to reread the whole series and then finish it, but I absolutely love this like shoujo manga about a girl trying to figure out herself and what her dream is, and I need to finish it. Then I also want to read the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I don't know much about this one except for it is an adult fantasy where I believe seasons and weather are like part of like an apocalypse potentially. One very interesting thing for me is apparently this has really good rep in general. So for different races, but also for different sexualities and orientations. I believe there's even like a poly relationship. I think there's trans characters. I might have even heard that there's non-binary characters. I don't know, but it sounds amazing. And then finally, this is a book that I have recently purchased, haven't even hauled it yet. I don't know much about it, but the cover's what drew me in. I basically did an Insta-buy of this. It's Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez. And I did the Insta-buy because there are cats in space here. The front cover says, kidnappers, alien emperors, psychic cats, and she's out of coffee. You have cats? I want it. So that's how I purchased it. Just this. Didn't even look into it much else. But then, before I filmed this video, I looked at the back, and there is not a review, a blurb. Let's go with that. By Curtis C. Chen. Imagine if Firefly and Mass Effect got together and had a baby, and that baby were delivered by Guillermo del Toro. This book is that baby. You got me. I love Firefly. I love Mass Effect so much. I need to read this. I don't know much about it. Apparently it is Own Voices because I believe our author is, I think it's a Cuban American on there. Yes, please. And then finally we have favorite book community members. I couldn't just pick one. I'm gonna leave all of the links to these channels down below, but these are just some of the people that I've absolutely been loving lately. We have Ashley from Bookish Realm, Tammy from Tammy Tries to Read, Lena from Sufficiently Advanced Lena, Erin from Booked and Busy, Allie from Read by Allie, Nori from Reading with Nori, Jessie from The Bookish Mom, Zoe from Zoe's All Booked, Kevin from Irish Reader, Chelsea from Chelsea Palmer, Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads, and Kayla from Books and Lala. Some of these people that I have listed down here are small booktubers just like me, and I've absolutely been loving them. They need more subscribers. And then some of them are big booktubers that I just have been loving for years. And that is it for this tag. I hope you guys liked it because I love watching everybody's mid-year book freakout tags every single year. And if you did like it, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see more videos. I do have videos up Mondays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye.